Namaste and welcome to Stroke Sighting. We're the Earth Meditation Tribe, and today we're doing a topic about the three core emotions. And how does that come about? Well, to my right is David, who has just finished a book. He hasn't got that book with him this afternoon, but it's done. And he's in the process now of preparing what would you call it, a practice direction or a set of exercises, David?
Integration aid.
Okay. So the intent is that, and when he spoke to me about this, I said, well, what will the topic of the afternoon be? And he said, oh, well, it's up to you. And I said, well, it just so happens that one of the great trauma leaders in England did a summit about 12, 18 months ago, and the head note speech was on the three core emotions. And that sat fairly well with David, and he said, well, I'm up for that. And the three core emotions, does anyone want to throw something into the ring, or can I lead on this? I'll lead.
Didn't give us much chance to
Oh, I beg your pardon. Why should we rush? The thing about this event, Peter knows this, is that, as I said before, we have such great presenters that often there's a pressure to get through the agenda. And if anyone was here last time, you'll remember that we just went slowly, and in the last hour I think we only sang 3 songs, but they were just beautiful, and they were so soft and laid back, and they got the point through. And by the way, I should say to you that Sunbear, I said, Sunbear, I love your I Know What You Know song. Some people call it the Om Mani Padme Hum song. And would you mind if we sang it on Sunday afternoon? Yes, I'd love you to sing it. And you can even mention my name. So the intent, let's slow it down. Rather than me say to you what this guru in England said are the three core emotions, I'll lead off with one. Safety. And in saying that, he was referring all the way back to children. If they don't have a safe upbringing, the foundations are not laid. And there was a whole narrative that he gave in relation to that particular core emotion. What would the other two be? Anyone brave enough?
Love.
Number 2. Gee, this is easy. Number 3, I bet no one can pick it. If you can, you will not be on tea or coffee duties later.
Hate.
Sorry?
Hate?
Hate. Oh, interesting. David, you're going to have to respond to this.
Fear.
I was thinking
Pardon?
Fear.
Fear.
Anger.
Purpose or connection.
I'll go right to the point. Boundaries. I think everyone could have fallen off the chair. I'll say no more than that for now, other than to say to you that those were the 3 core emotional needs. Safety, love.
Needs.
Yeah, you didn't say
emotional
emotions.
needs. Right.
You didn't
What
say
did I say?
emotions. You said
Emotions.
emotions. The
3
boundaries now.
core emotional needs.
Okay,
I beg
that's
your
different
pardon.
than emotions.
So boundaries, all right? I misled you. So David has prepared a talk today based on what he's got in his book. The intent is that we're going to hear him out on that, and plenty of opportunity to ask questions. And then Steve has kindly agreed to throw into the mix his take on the issue of emotions, because as you know, 6 or 9 months ago, he too presented here, and he presented in the context of him starting the emotion code. And since in the last 6 or 9 months, I think I'm getting the time frame correct, Steve.
About a year and a half.
A year and a half, was it, since you've done that gig here?
Oh, no, since the gig.
Okay. So he has, since launching here, and in fact before that, he's been seeing people here, and he is going to tell us what's happening on the ground. So whereas you're going to get David and his book and his idea of the emotion issue, Steve is, as I say, going to be more practical. He's going to be saying what people, the flavour of things that are coming to him as an emotions code practitioner. So that's the intent, and then the idea is that when we're through that conversation, we're going to have some music. And Steve has mentioned that there may be someone turn up, and I've also said to you that it may be that if Sunbear finishes the gig up the road, that we'll have him back here too. Let's play that one by ear. It doesn't matter who turns up because we'll have some songs anyway. Now I haven't got a clock or a phone on me, David, so all right. What we'll do is we'll start off with a story, because as you know we are much about stories here, and the intent is, as you know, Steve did a story 1 or 2 events ago, and about that tree out there, the bloodwood tree. And the idea in relation to earth stories is that they are really the frontline way of communicating to people about the earth. And so I'm wanting to revisit one of the stories this afternoon. From there we'll do a short meditation, and then David will have his talk, Steve will have his talk, and we'll see whether there is a conversation that arises from that. I suspect there will be. Okay, and this is a story that some of you may have heard before. It's a story about an old woman and her black dog and her spirit bird who live in a cave near the mountain. And before launching into that, because it is an earth story, let us acknowledge our Indigenous brothers and sisters, the Bundjalung. Not only the Bundjalung, I think many of you know that the Hopi have a particular connection with this mountain. So I'd like to acknowledge the Bundjalung, the Hopi, and in fact all Indigenous peoples. May they be well and happy. We accept that sovereignty has never been given, and we wish them well in obtaining a fair process with the government and others. So what we'll do is I'll ask you, if you would, to remember that through the afternoon. And also at this time of the afternoon, I'd like to say it's a good opportunity, if you wish, to refer back to what some call Sankalpa. I know in our January event we got a little rushed, and the intent was to refer you to what was called Sankalpa, or setting your intention for the year. If you haven't done that yet, maybe this afternoon is a good time to do so. So if we could just spend a minute or two just checking in, if you wish. And you can join with me if you like. I have a routine when I do meditations of doing some Ujjayi breathing. And as you know, when you're in a circle like this, our nervous systems are interacting. So I'd invite you to just close your eyes if you wish. Deep breath into your belly. Hold. And letting go. And to the right, left hand on the ground, right hand on your left thigh. Breath in deeply. And breathing out. Back to the centre. All 10 fingers on the earth. Breathing in the strength and the stability of the earth. Hold. And breathing out. Hand to the left. Right hand touching the ground. Or the seat, or whatever, however you're sitting. Breath in. Deep into your belly. And breathing out. And once again, the 10 fingers on the earth. Breath in deep into the dantian. Hold. And breathing out. Part of the exercise this afternoon when we do our meditation will be letting go. And the invitation besides, when you're thinking about your sankalpa, may well in part be something about letting go, whatever that may be. So this is the story about an old woman and a black dog and a spirit bird who live in a cave near the mountain. And when I say the mountain, for those watching on the video, the mountain is to our west here, albeit there's a bit of cloud today, so you're not going to be seeing much of the sunset. Ancient people, this is a story that I heard originally from Michael Mead, and it's a story from the North American Indians, and it's a collection of their stories brought together. And so there are all sorts of different versions of this, but let's see where it takes us, and I'll try to change the commentary a little from when we did it last time. So ancient people were more connected to the earth. It was their home. And our best way of connecting to the earth is by stories, often about the abundance and constant nourishment coming from the earth. In other words, ancient people were not disconnected from the earth, whereas many consider that modern peoples are disconnected. Nearby us, wherever we are, there is a place that is the source of knowledge. The very knowledge we have lost in becoming modern people. And even though there are roads going in every direction, motorways, superhighways, etc., etc., most people do not find the place of the source of knowledge, even though it may be nearby. But if they were to find it, it might be a cave. And if we looked inside, we see an old woman weaving the most beautiful garment anyone has ever seen. And she's got to the point where she is weaving the hem of this beautiful garment. And because she wants it to be special, she's weaving the hem out of porcupine quills. And in order to weave them into the hem, she has to flatten them. And to flatten them, she has been biting down on the quills for so long that she's worn her own teeth down to the nubs, barely sitting above the gums. But still she keeps biting down on the quills and weaving them into the hem. And every so often she needs to stop and go back to the cave. And at the back of the cave is a fire. And some people say it is the oldest thing in the earth and of the earth. The oldest thing of this world. And above that fire is a cauldron. And in that cauldron is a stew of all the seeds, of all the plants, trees, flowers, of all the forests and gardens on this earth. And if the old woman doesn't stir the stew, the seeds will burn, and there will be no flowers, no more grains, no more forests. And so the old woman puts down the weaving and moves to the back of the cave. And because she's old and been working for such a long time, as she moves to the back of the cave, the black dog, what black dog, goes over to the garment on the floor of the cave and sees a thread that is out of line. And so it takes the thread and pulls on it. And as it pulls on the thread, it unravels the entire garment. The most beautiful garment the world has ever seen. And when the old woman returns, she sees the garment unravelled and lying on the floor where once it had been a great beauty. And now it was a chaotic mess lying on the floor. And for a moment she just stands there to witness what has happened. And then she sits down again, and when she does, she sees a loose thread and immediately has the vision of a new garment. So beautiful. The most exquisite garment the world has seen. Even more so than the one before. And when she has that vision, she begins weaving again. And when this story is told by the elders of the tribe, some imagine that the whole thing as unravelling and in time will become to a chaotic end. But in ancient times, people knew the old woman to be the old woman who could reweave the world, and that the beautiful garment was the world itself. And so the story is about the weaving, the unravelling, or the collapse, however you want to describe it, and the reweaving of the world here on earth. And where some people would say, damn that black dog, as they would have liked the old woman to have finished the garment, and it would, assuming that it would be beautiful and perfect forever, ancient people knew that perfect means that if the old woman was ever to finish the garment, it would be all over. Ancient people and the elders might even suggest that we should be grateful for the unravelling, as it is connected to the whole reweaving. It's only this that leads to the opportunity to reweave and to start again. That is, the unravelling is part of the process by which the reweaving begins. And so the story in part is about the capacity of the earth to renew, to start again. But from our tribe's perspective, we say that it must do so in a spirit of truth and integrity. And that's the key as we see it in the world today. There are those who would want to create foundations that are not in truth and integrity. And so the end is not really that at all. It may be that the remnant, the thread that will form the basis of the new garment, in fact is the new earth. Some would say that we are coming to an end, but the preferred position is that of many, is that the end, in fact, is the start of something new. So I'd ask you to reflect on that in the coming days. Sure, there may be other things on your mind this afternoon. You'll be listening to a story about emotion shortly. But the Earth Meditation Tribe, its primary position is that it is the Earth that has the intelligence and the integrity. And when I last told this story, there was reference across to a YouTube clip. As I recall, there was Yuval Harari and another celebrity philosopher called Zizek. And there was a lot of conversation about, don't like using the word competition, the two positions between nature and man. And there are a number of comments made which would suggest that were putting into the mind of those present in the room, or drawing particular attention to the floods and the fires and all the other stuff that's going on in the world. In fact, one of those commentators referred to the nature of the Earth Mother as being a bitch, etc., etc. And admittedly, it may be that he would say, oh, well, there's a bit of light comedy in the afternoon, and I'm entitled to use that language, but quite frankly, from where I sit, I see no purpose to be served in downgrading the importance of nature and the Earth Mother, etc., etc. The Earth has an intelligence and it has an integrity. And it's the view of our tribe. I'm only too happy to share the genome that I have, it being the same genome that comes from the Earth. As simply put as that. And these are times, as you know, when this conversation is now developing out there, because there are things happening which would lead us in the direction of becoming, one of the words used is synthetic. A conversation for another day. For the purpose of this conversation this afternoon, however, is I'd like you to accept that it is the Earth Mother, and later we may sing a song which is about Saraswati, which is very much about recognising the goddess, recognising the earth, and living in truth and integrity. So that's the story of the afternoon, and the intent is that wherever possible on these afternoons we will try to fit in a story at the start, and next time around Dr. Rahasha Kraft will probably lead us. And he's agreed to tell it. You'll hear a story then about a famous Buddhist called Tisha. And the Tisha meditations are something that Rahasha is well known for. And if anyone has sat in on any of his meditations at Temple Byron, quite frankly, that's a story that's important to all of us, the Atisha story. It's about a connection with the heart. So what we'll do before moving into the discussion is I'll invite you to take the normal position that you take when you are meditating, one that is comfortable and allows you to be alert.
How's the temperature in here?
Beautiful, great.
Cold.
Too cold.
Is it too cold?
Anybody else too cold?
Oh, you're getting it, are you? Direct.
That's all right. I'm fine.
You're okay if we leave it like that?
I can turn it a little bit higher. 1 degree. I can try. I'll set on to this.
So constructing your posture from the ground up, feeling the points of connection that you have with the earth, whether they be your feet or your bottom or your back or your hands. With a firm back and a soft front, a soft heart, and sitting tall. And relaxing and softening. And letting go of all your roles and responsibilities, all of your stories, many of which are just part of the delusion. And allowing your mind to rest in the body. Just as your body sits on the cushion. And this afternoon, I invite you just to be in present moment awareness. I'll try to use the phrase, just be present. Be here, be now. So dropping down into the body, establishing mindfulness and embodied mindfulness. And the first of the 4 foundations of mindfulness established by the Buddha was the body. And possibly the best way to see through that is by breath. So breathing in, once again, deep into your belly, into the dantian. And breathing out. And breathing in, I know that I'm breathing in. And breathing out, I know that I'm breathing out. And so being present to your breath. Sometimes short, sometimes long. Sometimes deep and sometimes shallow. Noting the point of commencement of the in-breath. comes to an end. Noting the start of the out breath. And when that comes to an end. And noting generally the movement of breath through the body. Maybe on the tip of your nose. Maybe your chest. Maybe deep down in your belly. And breathing to where it is clear and obvious to you. Not having a preconceived destination, just allow the breath to come and go from wherever as it will. So once again, just taking your time to come out. And we may finish by just doing a short loving kindness meditation. For those who wish, they can put their hand to their heart at the appropriate time. May I be well. May I be happy. May I live my life with ease. And may I be safe and free. And may all beings be well. May they be safe. May they be free. May they live their life with ease. We'll finish off with a breath into the heart. Holding and releasing. Now stay as you are in your meditation position, and if you've got your eyes shut, you're welcome to leave them like that for the moment. We're not going to get probably the time to do this afternoon, but shortly David is going to give you his take on emotions, and Steve's going to back that up as contained in his book. Steve is then going to back that up with talk about what's actually happening on the ground with people who are seeking his help. If time permits, I know Maggie's here this afternoon, there's a Buddhist take on the issue of emotions. And a moment ago I referred to the four foundations of mindfulness, which is at the core of Buddhism. And the first being body, and the second being feelings, third being chitta. Let's not get complicated, Greg, keep it simple. In any event, the Buddhists have a particular technique or process that they follow or they encourage as being something that is helpful. And it helps people to achieve freedom from troubled emotions. And the technique, the meditation technique, is called the RAIN method. R-A-I-N. If we get time, we might do it later, but I suspect we won't. So I'm going to tell it to you right now while you're just coming out of a meditation. Number one, R is recognise. So when we're talking about emotions or feelings, etc., begin by acknowledging what you are experiencing. This could be a thought, feeling, or emotion. It's about identifying the presence of these experiences without judgment. So if you're doing the meditation, the first thing is you're sitting there, you recognise. You don't go upstairs or try to avoid it or whatever your technique is to avoidance. You recognise. Number two, allow. Allow. This step involves letting the experience be there, just as it is. It's about permitting yourself to feel without changing or suppressing the emotion. Think of it as saying yes to your feelings, allowing them to exist. So that's the A, allow. Third one, I, investigate. Now gently explore your experiences with curiosity and kindness. Ask yourself, what triggered this feeling? How is it manifested in my body? This introspection helps in understanding the roots of your emotions and reactions. Steve or David or someone in the room might challenge me on this later, but the conversation I normally hear about investigating is these emotions often exist in that central axis that goes from the throat down through to the first chakra. So far as I'm aware, correct me if anyone thinks I'm wrong on this, they don't necessarily appear in your little toe or wherever. It's that central axis that often, e.g. fear or whatever, may be felt in the belly or etc. etc. So number 3, investigate. Number 4, the N is nurture. Finally, offer yourself some self-compassion, whether through reassuring words, a comforting thought, or a physical gesture like placing your hand on your heart. This nurturing response is about providing care and comfort to yourself. So, once again, number 4, nurture, is the fourth in the line. It's a very simple meditation, but it's one that we may not get time to do this afternoon, but at least you're on notice of it. And if it's something that may be helpful, you'll find it very easily on the internet, and I think most people attribute this particular technique to Tara Brach. There's a whole number of other people who have similar processes. So when Steve comes back, what I'm proposing, David, is that you'll lead off. Do you mind doing that, or would you prefer Steve to?
No, that's fine.
Are you okay with that? Many of you will have seen the short blurb that David had in his... Thanks, Steve. Sorry about that. Oops. Okay, so that's the intent. We're going to listen to David now, and I'm hoping he'll navigate you through relevant parts of his book. Some of it I've heard, but very little I've heard, and this is one of the joys of these afternoons when people present a new book or a new poem or whatever, you're hearing it for the first time. And so to some extent, there have been a couple of people who've used the Earth Meditation Tribe as their platform for reinventing themselves or for getting their new project out there or whatever it may be. So I'm sure that David is going to welcome some feedback once he's finished his talk. Now, do you mind if I sit over to the side? And you can either sit up or you can sit as I sat there, whatever you're comfortable with. You okay with that?
Yeah. Alright, hello everybody. Now my talk is centered around particularly around emotional coagulation. Another term for that would be depression, I guess. And what happens when it's like a silent yet in plain sight epidemic. Silent in the fact that a lot of these things are unconscious and that they're coming through. And I'll get to that as we go through. And I recently did a cleanse of my intestinal tract and my colon. And it was a 1-day cleanse, and during this cleanse, the material that you drink forms like, I guess it's like a foamy substance in your intestinal tract, and then the next day you pass out. And the reason I did this was because there are parasites that live in your gut, and they can scramble the messages to your brain, so they can make you eat certain things, they can make you do certain things. There's a lot of examples in this in nature where grasshoppers or ants get taken over by the parasite and they either drown themselves or whatever. And emotions are the same, but they're more sneaky because you can't really see that they're doing that to you in a certain sense if you're not really paying attention, and we're going to get into that. And in so doing, these emotions can put these really thin veils over that then present as perception biases. And they can be so thin that we don't realise we have them. And it's a term of, it's a question of emotional hygiene. And for me, the more somebody is projecting, the less hygienic they are, because they're not taking responsibility for that, their emotions. And that could be because they're just coagulated, and then the original core source of that emotion is really difficult to discern because it's been so piled on top of. And this has been my experience actually through this. My body actually hid something from me for about 30 years, something that happened when I was 3. And it formed this, once I uncovered it, it informed, I saw all these behaviours that had been created as a result of not actually dealing with these emotions. But it was so kind of twisted from the original incident that it was very hard to really discern. So I'm going to be talking about this in relation to the quantum realm, paradox and creativity. And I'll explain what I mean by all of those things as we go through. These are 3 things that have helped me deal with something that happened to me when I was 3, and my body completely forgot about it, but my behaviours didn't. So we'll get into that and how it looks. Because the body's always giving us clues. The body is always giving us clues. And I'm finding that the reflections of the people are just reflecting those clues back to me. The more I take responsibility for those projections, the cleaner and quicker I can actually move through these emotions and get to a place. So I was born in England and got out of there as quickly as I could. I mean, it's not a place. England is, we have a saying in England called a stiff upper lip, and that means you just bury all of your emotions and you don't deal with it because you've got stuff to do and you don't want to appear vulnerable. You want to appear as though you're handling your stuff, and it's kind of an emotional suicide, really, because the sinks are getting blocked, and then it's a major job to unplug it, and we can really create some drama in the process of that. So the first thing, so when I found out a bit about what I'd been through when I was 3, I was like, okay, well, how am I going to reconcile this in the world? And the first thing I came to was the quantum realm. Now, when I say quantum, I mean a realm of unity, magic, and creativity. And the quantum realm basically is the interconnectedness of everything. And it's about living more so from a place of magic and creativity than from a place of intellect. And physicists have really struggled with quantum theory, what they're uncovering, because it rocks the foundations of everything we've been taught. Mostly 2 things: that the world is independent of us and that it's fixed. And these are 2 perfect conditions for emotional coagulation. If the world is fixed, then nothing's changing and there's no flow through. The quantum realm is all about momentary reinventing oneself. Everything's in ever change. And as we've held this fixed view of the world, or it's been kind kind of drilled into us by science and education, then this is very difficult in terms of dealing with emotions, because we're just seeing everything is fixed and it's independent, so we're not taking responsibility for it either. So Albert Einstein had a real conundrum understanding what he was uncovering, and so a lot of physicists have actually tried to repel this and push it back. But one such physicist was John Wheeler, and he actually embraced it. And he believed that we inhabit an enchanted world that is linked to our mind's creative inspiration. And when I look at processing really difficult emotions, if I'm in that kind of frame of mind, then already I've taken the first step in actually proactively dealing with things. So I'm just going to read a little passage from the book that I've written, The Paradox of Depression, and this is just going to basically elaborate a little bit on what I mean by the quantum realm and how it relates to processing emotions. So the quantum realm is in a constant state of change, in perpetual reinvention from one moment to the next. And the perpetual reinvention is something that's key here. And it's something that the emotional coagulation prevents. And if we're not continually reinventing ourselves, then it's like a surfer going to the beach and pining for the wave that he surfed in 1983 and getting really disconsolate because it's not coming back. The wave's not here, the wave's not here. He's stuck, he's fixed. And that's what I believe unprocessed emotions do. They hold us in a certain time period, and that reality's gone. And so there's a discord, and there's a frequency mismatch, and we're trying to live presently, but that's there, and that's kind of sucking our energy back into the vortex of it. So quantum physics asserts that we're dreaming up the world as we're observing it, and this very act of observation is simultaneously dreaming us up. Now, that is really powerful, because immediately we're creators. We've empowered ourselves as creators as soon as we take that stance. Because it's a two-way street. The universe can't exist without us observing it. If I close my eyes, is the universe still there? It's the act of observation is everything, and so it is too with emotions, the act of observation. Okay, so basically quantum physics is positing that we're part of a collective dream. And I think one of the reasons this collective dream is kind of going a little sour at the moment is because, and this is kind of the astrology that we're in at the moment with the age of Aquarius. I think we're seeing a lot of discord on the planet right now, a lot of purging, because this is coming, people are being forced to look at their emotions. I think especially in the COVID era, people were forced to stay at home and really look at themselves, and that was probably really hard for a lot of people. I imagine in the cities and everything, who were just in rush, do. So we're in this collective dream, and the thing for me is, how do we want to contribute to this creative collective dream? And we've got to really work through our emotional coagulation first to do that. So these thoughts and actions are projected onto a giant and seemingly separate movie screen that we call objective reality. A reality we've been conditioned to think is separate from us. The emphasis in the quantum world is on undivided wholeness. So in this sense, the observer is the observed. And to give you an example of this, say I'm gazing at a cloud outside, and if I perceive the shape of a dragon in the clouds, does that mean that there's actually a dragon in the clouds? Or does it mean that I'm projecting the symbol of a dragon onto the cloud with my mind? If it's the latter, then where is the boundary between the thought that I'm sending out of a dragon in the cloud and the actual cloud that appears as a dragon? It's like, if I'm thinking about Steve over there, where is the boundary? My thought is connecting me directly to you. How do we delineate that? And I've had several experiences in my life where the boundaries have completely fallen away, and I've seen the quantum realm, and one of those was through a scorpion bite, believe it or not. And I was writhing around in fever on my bed, and then I actually came out of my body. And then I realised, wow, I don't actually need a body to live, but I do, but I don't. And then the notion of a house disappeared, the notion of the moon disappeared, shining through the window, the notion of anything containing anything disappeared. And then I came back into my body. I was like, well, how do I take that and inject it into my life? And the point is, it's already there. I'm covering it up. And the emotional coagulation is what's stopping me from really connecting to this realm of magic the entire time. That's my belief anyway. So, I have a really good quote here from Paul Levy. Has anybody read this, The Quantum Revelation? It's a radical synthesis of science and spirituality, so he merges the two together really well. And he gives a really good example of the quantum here. It's easy to think of a tree as part of nature. The tree, however, is not a part, but is coextensive with the whole universe. It's impossible to say at what point a molecule of carbon dioxide or oxygen crossing the cell membrane into or out of a leaf starts being air and becomes/is no longer the tree. The tree, with its roots, trunk, branches and leaves, threads out into the whole environment it is part of and an expression of a larger ecosystem, which itself is interconnected with and inseparable from the universe. And why is this useful? Like, why is the interconnectedness of everything useful? If I'm feeling a little sullen, and if I go outside and the sun's shining, and if I feel that sun on my face, I'm actually instantly connected to the center of the universe. I may not be in the center of the universe, but I also am in the center of the universe. If I can feel that warmth, then it's coming. Like, where is the sun originating from? It's coming from there. And the sun has a massive effect on emotions as well. The solar flares cause earthquakes, and earthquakes disrupt the electromagnetism of the earth, and we're electromagnetism receivers with our brains, and that's going to affect us as well. And it affects the poles, and the poles are gravitating. There are so many forces acting upon our emotions all the time. And the world of magic and creativity, we can actually use that to create and be connected and to connect other people to this energy as well. I believe that emotional liberty comes as soon as we take responsibility for the fact that what we perceive in everything we see is a reflection of our own inner state. And a lot of physicists have said this. You can't actually negate the inner state of the observer in a perception. So this is where the perception biases come in. And this is where the emotional coagulation that's driving these biases then interacts. And maybe you're in a group of people and no one's actually interacting with each other, it's just their emotional things just smacking against each other. Interesting if we could see that with our senses, but we can't. Who's heard of the 6 degrees of separation? Now, that's funny. I find that a funny term to denote something that's supposed to connect everything, and I think that's a hangover from the classical physical view of the world as independent from us. So I think that should be the 6 degrees of unification. And this really helps me. It's really helped me in my process of processing what happened to me early on in life. And I'm just going to give you a little example of how everything is connected to love. So we start with sexual abuse, which would be like, okay, how is that connected to love? So sexual abuse is a sign for me of emotional coagulation. So it's somebody who hasn't processed their emotions and they're acting that out upon somebody. That's one way of looking at it. There are many ways to look at it. So emotional coagulation, that's neglect. That's somebody not looking at their stuff, pushing it away. And neglect could be, there are several corridors we can go down here, but neglect could be a fear of intimacy. For that person being intimate with their own emotional state. And it could be also neglect that they may have faced when they were younger and they're playing that out on somebody else. And so a fear of intimacy is linked to intimacy, and intimacy is linked to love. So the pattern there is abuse, emotional coagulation, neglect, fear of intimacy, love. And so when something very unpreferable is happening to me, I take solace in the fact that I'm no more than 6 degrees away from love at the time that that's happening. And it could even be 4, because you can go from neglect straight to love as well. So I find that very consoling, and that's where the understanding of the quantum has really been a godsend in the process. And let's go on to paradox. I'm going to talk about paradox in relation to the 3 emotional core needs. I find paradox incredibly liberating. And I'll tell you why. I'll just give a little definition of it first. A seemingly absurd or contradictory statement or proposition, which when investigated may prove to be well-founded or true. So it seems strange to say that something contradictory or potentially absurd could be useful. But I believe that paradox is a skeleton key to the quantum. I'm just going to read another little passage out here. Paradox opens any door while seemingly opening none at all due to its non-definitive nature. Don't try and tie paradox down, because it will always wriggle free, because it is the master key. Paradox is an unlikely ally for free and cluttered minds. It doesn't feel the need to endlessly dissect and divide. It prefers to keep existence as a mystery. And so it commits itself by not committing to anything at all. Paradox is a gateway to the ever-change. It has become my default compass. I use it to navigate through every situation in my life that I find unpreferable. I find that the input of paradox brings about immediate balance if I can relax into it. Carl Jung agreed as well. He quotes here, only the paradox comes anywhere near to comprehending the fullness of life. Non-ambiguity and non-contradiction are one-sided and thus unsuited to express the incomprehensible. Now, where I find paradox really useful, it doesn't choose a side, and it's a kind of a gateway to transcending duality, or becoming free of the dualistic mind, which, if you stay in the dualistic mind, or let's just bring this back to me, if I stayed in the dualistic mindset with what happened to me when I was 3, then I wouldn't have been able to get to the place where I can not only talk to it about it in a room full of strangers, but I can actually be okay with it, and I can see in all the ways that it has benefited me, and all the ways, all the resilience that I've got from it, and all of the things. So in order to fully embrace paradox, and this is where the 3 core emotional needs come in, and I'll talk about that now in relation to what point I'm trying to make. So boundaries. As a result of the abuse, I didn't really have any boundaries, so I grew up boundless, and that got me into a few situations that weren't preferable. But it also reinforced the need for boundaries that I wouldn't have had as greater understanding of boundaries if I hadn't had my boundaries contravened. And then because I had both sides of that, I was able to come up and see it as energy. And this is what paradox is asking us to interact with it. View things as energy, and that the dualistic mind can go aside, and you can look at abuse and love, and you can see how, I'm not sure if useful is the right word, but you can kind of see how how they can both be working together to dissolve the coagulation that's stored in our bodies. So yeah, that's the paradox of boundaries, is really knowing what it's like to not have boundaries, to really understand the importance of them. And maybe you can have that without you're having your boundaries contravened, but then do you really know? That's a point for discussion. Maybe contentious. Safety is amazing for stabilizing the nervous system and processing things like this. And it's also, too much of it stifles the intuition as well. Because, like, humans didn't, if we only lived in safety as human beings, then we wouldn't be here. Like, dinosaurs would have trampled all over us. We need that sense of danger, almost. And one way that I was exploring this concept, and this is an example of emotional coagulation. I was going out to the wilderness a lot, doing wilderness hikes. Wasn't taking a compass, wasn't taking a map. I was just going out and doing it, and it was pretty stupid in hindsight. But that was part of me trying to explore what safety was, because I knew I didn't feel safe, but I didn't know why I didn't feel safe. And when I went to the wilderness, this was really kind of clear. The more trips that I did out there, the more it broke down my emotional coagulation, and then the more room it gave for this thing to actually arise within and eventually reveal itself. So in exploring the danger, because I've been in a few dangerous situations out in the bush, then actually having a pure sense of danger, that actually allowed me to tap into what was really the danger within. And that danger within is that unprocessed stuff. So, and the thing that really hammered this home, I was in New Zealand and I was stuck in a rainstorm for 60 hours in a tent. And the tent was shaking, the rain was really heavy, and my tent flooded in the middle of it. And I don't usually pray, but on the third night I was like, oh, come on. Surely this is got to end, this has got to end. And that experience stayed with me because it gave me such an appreciation of safety that I wouldn't have had otherwise. And it's not to say that we should be putting ourselves into dangerous situations, but to know what danger is and do that in a safe way, that's possible. And that's something that my book is exploring. It's something that I'm going to be running a course on afterwards. So, and the paradox of love as well. To know pure love, I believe we need to know the shadow realm, because it's the old cliche of you shine a light and the darkness is more dark if you shine a bright light. And there's the analogy of Plato's cave, where I think this is analogous to modern day society, where we've got everyone watching the shadows on the cave and then unaware of the light that's projecting the shadows from here. We're all focused on the societal programs or whatever they are. And they're almost like the unprocessed emotions in the shadow realm. And I managed to use anti-love to integrate what I'd experienced. And how I did that was I didn't just push. I'll give you an example actually. So a lot of the time growing up, I had a threat of impending attack. Someone was going to attack me, especially from men. And that was very strong for me. And instead of pushing that away, it's like the rain thing, I guess. Instead of pushing that away, I went, right, okay, that's got a massive charge that's triggering me. If I take the trigger out of this, that's got such an energy that I can use to propel myself forward. And so I inverted it. So the anti-love was there as a signpost, as a marker, and then the love I was able to invert it. And so I made an effort to build more nourishing relationships with men and to connect collaboratively and form brotherly bonds. And that worked. Because but I needed that anti-love in a way to get to that point in order for it to really permeate through my body, not just have an intellectual understanding, but for it to really sink in on a cellular level. And there's a few more examples, but I won't go through those. And well, basically anti-love combined with love, and I formed an integration plan with that. And the integration was starting to be creative with men and making music and completely turning that relationship on its head. And if I'd have just, there's something really powerful about the shadow backing that up, I feel. Which brings me to the third thing, creativity for processing emotions. And this is a paradox that leads nicely into this, because I had an interesting thing. I wrote a novel, maybe in my early 20s, and I put it in the drawer for 12 years. And one day I just thought, I'm going to get it out. See what it is. And so I got it out, and I found out my body had remembered by then. And so I read through the book, and I was like, I could see my emotional coagulation was so obvious. I projected it all onto my characters and the environment they were in, and I was just reading through it going, okay, this was me exploring it in a way that I didn't realize I was exploring it. And so creativity has been the absolute key for me to integrate this. To use that energy of the charge, of the heaviness, and just create beautiful things with it. And song as well, like, and poems, and just anything that puts us in touch with that ever-changing momentary reinvention, which is creativity. When you're in a flow of something, time disappears, you're in a flow state, and it's like you're connecting with this divine presence that's just imbuing your body with this beautiful energy, and that shifts anything. It's like an amazing cleanse. I have the oud over there. I was gonna give you a little demo with the oud, because the oud is a very interesting instrument because there's no chord shapes on there, but it's an emotional instrument. So you have certain maqams, they're called, and they're a series of notes. And there's a certain there's certain maqams for happiness, and there's ones for darkness, and there's ones in between, and so it's a really beautiful instrument for playing what you feel, because sometimes we don't know. Sometimes we don't know what's like boiling within, and music is a really great way of, especially singing in gibberish. I found I'm not going to do that today, but just playing our emotions, even if it's on spoons or on the floor or on a partner's head, whatever it is, like just playing them out of us. And this has got a really interesting history, this instrument. It's about 6,000 years old. I think only the tar is the oldest string instrument apart from this. And the Babylonian kings used to use it to connect. If they had a really important decision to make in the kingdom, if they were going to go to war or anything, they would call in 3 musicians. They would call in an oud player, a tar player, and a ney player, which is a flute. And the king would assemble them, and he'd get comfortable in his chair, and the musicians would play, and the combination of those instruments would open up a channel for the king, and he would get divine guidance as to what to do with his kingdom. So this is how this was used traditionally. So this is a little song, little tune that I wrote to express emotions.
What's the name of it, Tim?
Enchanted.
Where is that instrument from originally?
It's from the Middle East. Iran, Iraq, Syria, those kinds of places. It's kind of all over that region. You might have seen it in Morocco actually.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
How do you spell oud?
O-U-D.
So, David, where are you at with your talk? Are you just about nearing
That's done. That's me. That's done.
Oh, all right. So, what's the time now? You got your clock there? I don't know where mine
It's
is.
3:35.
Do you need a 5-minute break? Because we've got to put on the cup of tea for you yet. But if it's 5 minutes, it's got to be 5 minutes. Latest 7 minutes.
Which could be 8 minutes.
No.
Needs to know.
No, we really need to finish off. What's the feeling of the people here?
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
When I ring the bell, can you come back?
Yes, for sure.
All right, it'll be 7 minutes at the latest.
Do you want me to choose the?
No, it's see the possum.
You want to see the possum? Right, go for it.
And Carolyn, are you able to look after if I show you the things to go on a cup of tea?
If you show me what needs to happen, yeah, sure.
People are very easy to see.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alright.
So the possum will be behind the toilet bowl, in the back
Just down here.
on the floor. He's in the love shack. Yeah.
Actually, in the toilet.
Is it like in the
Not
love
very
shack?
No, it'd just be past it, right? He's just in the back corner. He never moves from that back. So, but he should be alright.
Just describe again whereabouts is it, Steve? In
Toilet.
the toilet? Oh, yeah. Well, I was in there recently and he was as quiet as a possum.
So maybe if you're gonna move around.
Oh, yeah.
What's the story of that This was a possum.
Ah, it's a possum.
Possum.
Maybe we could put a snake in there too.
Snake would be good.
Yeah.
Is that right, right?
It will cost them.
Comes out a bit different when you're actually
It doesn't cost them. Yes. They'll pay. Yeah, it's a shame. Cut short.
Well, otherwise you wouldn't have been here today, probably, mate.
Yeah. And on the deep level, looking at the knee behind it all. Something will come out of it.
Yes.
How do you do?
Awesome.
Yeah, you look well.
Yeah. Yeah, no, very well.
It's fucking.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I always seem to do that. No, good, really, really good. I finished building my mezzanine in the shed, then I built a big mezzanine.
That's very good.
No, well, I put my office in
never
Parliament.
comes out how you.
Yeah.
It's more for
Very much looking forward to this.
meditation,
Cool.
ceremonies, sound healing, Reiki. Sort of, there's a lady in Lincolnwood, June. She's got this beautiful yurt, and
It's
it's
such an
it's very
interesting
much like this.
doorway.
Beautiful timber
I've never
floors.
considered any of that.
She's got an altar. The energy in there is absolutely incredible. Anyway, the ladies, they have their meditations there on a Thursday, and the ladies are telling me, you know, I need to wake up the husbands. You know, there's so many awakened spiritual ladies and tell them, but hardly any men.
Yeah.
You'll see what I've done.
And June said to me, she said,
This is very direct.
I can use her yurts for the meditations for the men. And I thought, there's no way in the world a farmer that's going to park his ute in front of a yurt. That'd scare them. I need to ease them into it, you know.
I can ask.
So I was guided to build a mezzanine in my shed.
Muscle test.
Where downstairs, when we renovated the house, I
And
put the kitchen in, put the kitchen in the shed. So it's a manger with a kitchen, with a laundry, a fridge.
Then we identify when it's
Yeah, they're happy to have their use out of the
some of the
front.
claws.
Come in, we can play darts, we can have a beer, we can chat.
This method seems
Yeah,
Interesting.
easy that's
Yeah. And it
Yeah,
works.
so I
It's so
thought
simple.
That's what we need.
Yeah.
Something that gets.
This is it. This is it. That's why.
I built it all by myself. It's quite large. Yeah, built the whole thing and it's come up
You know,
mate.
you're going to do
How big is that compared to say
To
this?
get to this,
It's
just find something that said no.
That wall width.
It is 4.8
So we
metres
just, the subconscious mind is
by
supercomputer. And it
8.5
just tell you.
8.5 metres
Right,
by
so
7.5.
Right, okay. So you figured out a way to
and
access
it's
it.
It's motion code. This is out in Utah.
There's 13
This is
steps
the
that
modality.
go up from
You
the
know
main
the first
cave,
one.
and then underneath the mezzanine,
Yeah,
Still
I'm
got
interested in
Yeah.
it.
full head height to get the mowers under, the motorbike, the quad and all that.
Yeah.
So, and I've got a workbench right at the back as well too. And I've got a gym next to it as well. So, yeah, it's a great space. And I had a girl, a young lady, Binks. She lives in South Golden Beach, and she did the murals. Actually, I've got photos of her.
Excellent.
Binks. Yeah, she's Oh, could you get me one too, please? I'd love to see the pictures. I left my water bottle in the car. I fill it up and then I left it.
Yeah. Just over else.
Thank you very much. You know, I walked up the hill and I thought, oh no, I've got my water bottle. I was going to walk back down here. And you can scroll through those photos.
Oh, wow. That's serious building.
Yeah.
You're describing man cave. I was thinking just like a villa. Sorry, who did that?
Binks, her name is. Binks, yeah.
That is beautiful.
Yeah, she's awesome. She's next level, that girl. She's 34, and her mother was a single mum and had 2 kids, 2 girls. And when Binks was 6, her mother had a spiritual awakening. And so whenever, that's awesome.
True.
Yeah. So whenever the mother went to any workshops, she took the kids with her. So she's been exposed to spirituality basically in my life. We had some next level conversations and she's incredible.
Yeah.
Well, that's just stuff I bought in Nimbin. That's I put on the back of a robe because behind that is my office, but in the middle that's the altar.
That's
So
fabric, isn't
yeah.
it? Yeah. Awesome. I love the middle one. Was that her painting, the tree?
No. That's just fabric I got from Nimbin.
I did my house with fabric from England. That
Okay,
place
yeah.
just got the opposite toilets.
Oh, okay. Yes.
That
Oh, yeah.
shop.
Okay.
Wow,
Yeah, so
looks really, really good.
so that kept me busy for a while.
Yeah.
So I did the flooring and I did everything.
It's a creative project, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Very satisfying.
I have to show Stephen because Stephen came over when I was still framing it all up.
He'll be jealous of your murals.
Mm. Yeah.
I'm really into this parasite thing at the moment. Oh, yeah.
No, that is the alarm.
Oh, just, yeah, the parasite thing. I had a bit of a running with a friend, like the other night I caught up with, and he's writing about just stress and money and all these things, all that,
Sure.
and he's got this big gut like this, and he's a lean muscle, and he's just one of those guys. So it's just, it's this parasites, gut full
I thought it was some parasites.
just being really, really,
They're really nasty.
and I go about, what they say about getting attachment, darker forces, that sort of stuff. You have to put a big miss.
Yeah.
Steve, are you okay
That's
to
probably why.
jump straight in?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I know that sort of stuff.
Okay, we'll get started again, guys.
Just going to eat more fruit, I think.
Thanks for so much for your talk. Really enjoyed
Yeah, that was
it.
awesome.
We'll vacate this in a moment. And Steve, you've seen his bio from previously. And Maggie's back was required to leave, Steve, so
Yeah.
we don't have to wait for Maggie. Was there someone else?
Yeah, the woman with her to take it over.
There were 4 women and 8 men here before.
Steve, can we ask you to come forward and give a short take on what's happening on the ground?
Who are we missing?
Beatrice.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, so Beatrice was waiting for Ali. You don't need a formal introduction, do you?
No. Don't need anything. Okay, so I've done a talk about the emotion code, so I won't do that today. Does anybody here not know about the emotion code? One person, okay. I'll just say this before I talk about what I'm going to talk about today, which is really what's happening on the ground with the people I'm seeing, in terms of where they're being stuck in the pain body and trapped emotions. And where they're being stuck is a very interesting place, in that they come in a state of frustration, a state of blaming themselves that they still have this thing going on with whatever's going on in their life. And so they end up, I'm bad, why am I like this, there's something wrong with me. They come in like this. And they're doing a lot of work. There's people that, in Byron Bay or wherever they are, people are doing a lot of work with themselves around here. And yet they're still stuck with whatever's going on, right? and they're stuck in an area that they haven't considered looking at. And this is what happens when they come here. So I do maybe typically three sessions a day, maybe 4 emotion code sessions a day, usually here or online. And just because people don't know what emotion code is, I'll just say it briefly. The emotion code is a modality that's very, very, very simple. And it allows you to very, very quickly identify the cause of whatever's going on with you in terms of emotions, patterns that are playing out, physical body issues, anxiety, or things where you're blocked, you know, like you haven't dated somebody for 5 years because, you know, you don't need to anymore, or whatever's going on, right? Or relationships, or the same things playing out over and over and over again. So the emotion code is a way where we can simply just work with the subconscious mind, which knows everything about you. Your subconscious mind is the 95% of your mind. The conscious mind is the 5% of your mind. The 5% of the mind, of the conscious mind, is kind of what we talk through now. When we go to school, we learn a certain technique, and then we apply that on the job at a company or whatever. The conscious mind, that 5% of the mind also includes the ego, which is, the ego is all about separation and saying no to life, you could say. But the subconscious mind is truly the supercomputer of you. And it knows everything. It, you know, in terms of, why do I feel this way? Well, it knows. Why does this thing happen again and again and again? I met the same girl again. All right? Over the last 5 years, I've dated 5 girls, and they're all the same woman. It's the same thing. It's playing out exactly the same. Why? Well, that's a dead giveaway that there's trapped emotions. It's something you haven't met. So the subconscious mind is something we can just ask through this methodology called the emotion code, which is so simple that a kid can learn this and do this. Okay, so everyone can learn this. I won't go into what it is and how it works, but basically all we do through the emotion code is we can connect to the subconscious mind. You can do it with yourself. You can do it with somebody else. And in a certain way, we will ask the subconscious mind whatever we want to ask. So, say I had an issue with the left side of my neck. It's been going on for 5 years. I've been to all the doctors, nobody can fix it. I've been to physio, nobody can fix it. And typically, you will have trapped emotions there. We will trap emotions. And so, earlier you said typically the emotions are held within this part of the body. So maybe the majority is, but no, they can be held everywhere in the body. Right? Anywhere in the body. So say somebody comes in and they have an issue with the left side of the neck, I can simply, with their approval, I can connect to the subconscious mind, and then I can ask a question. Say that person's name is Susan. There's a trapped emotion in Susan, causing or contributing to issues with the left side of her neck. And then, if I'm connected, I can use a method of kinesiology to decode what it is. All right, and we've got a chart of emotions, and we can quickly find out what it is. All right, and so I won't go into the emotion code today. I'm going to bypass that a bit, but we will identify what it is. We can find out how many trapped emotions there are contributing to whatever's going on with that person. Maybe they're blocked. Their heart's blocked, they don't let anybody in, maybe they got an issue with their neck, maybe they've got anxiety, they don't know why or where it comes from. People are very frustrated, that's what I'm saying, they come in, they're frustrated. They've gone to so many methodologies, modalities. And so I'll jump to what I want to talk about today, which is, you talked about the 3 emotional needs, core emotional needs. I'm going to talk about the 3 major types of trapped emotions. Because most people only focus on emotions that we've trapped in this lifetime. All right? So how does that happen? We trap emotions like this. Emotion is just an energy. It's the size of a fist. And it's part of your experience. So it comes into the body. Say it's joy. The emotion's there and joy's there. Now we don't tend to block joy. Right? So we allow it to be there. All those things. What was that word? The 4 things. Rain. So rain, that meditation. So when joy comes, we naturally do this rain meditation that you talked about. Right? We just allow it to be there, we recognize it, we feel it in the body, and then what happens is it comes and then goes, right? Because all emotions are energy. Energy moves. Energy wants to move, it comes and goes. So joy's here, it comes and goes, right? We just experience it. So I like to use the word meet it. We meet it by just allowing it to be there and feeling it and whatever. But then but we've been taught early on in life to seek pleasure and avoid pain. So then what happens is, through this false teaching, it's probably one of the worst teachings, because there's nothing wrong with pain. Right? Pleasure's a part of life, pain's a part of life. It's natural. It's going to come. Right? If pain is here, and we allow the pain to be here, like we allow joy to be here, that pain may be something like despair, or sadness, or sorrow, or anger, whatever it is, that will come. And if you just allow it to be there, oh, anger's here. How interesting. And anger will go. Right? It won't get stuck. So there's no problem, there's no issue with emotions. Emotions are not good or bad, they're just feedback. It's just part of your experience. The universe is showing you what's happening. The issue is this. The issue is when we say no. The issue is when we resist in any form, may that be fight, flight, freeze. We say we don't want it. Or, what often happens is, an experience happens so quick that we can't meet the experience. Like an experience of panic. Like I have a friend in this room here today who was riding his motorcycle, or his car. He was driving his car to work in the local area at 5 a.m. It was very dark, and suddenly there's a cow in front of him on the road. And so, if you don't mind me saying, he trapped two things. He trapped hopelessness and panic, or something like this. I can't remember exactly. Hopelessness was one of them, because it happened too quick. Because right before he hit that cow, he couldn't get away from it, and he couldn't meet the experience because it happened too quick, right? So when we have a trauma, when somebody attacks us, stuff like this, we often will trap stuff because we can't meet it. So the energy's there, and it gets stuck in the body. Okay, so that's what happens if we have an experience where we're 16, we have our first boyfriend or girlfriend, and oh my God, I love this girl, she's wonderful, you know. And then we go to the party, and we're just like so psyched to see her. You walk in, and she's making out with your best friend, right? Right? So then we just feel heartache, and we might feel betrayed, and we might run away and just bury that. It's like, I don't want to feel that, it's too much. So as soon as we say, I don't want to feel it, no, that's too much, you know, I'll deal with that later or whatever, then this energy that's traveling through the body gets stuck in the body. And it gets stuck in the organs of the body somewhere, okay? And so that will play out in the body because it's an unconscious energy, because you did not meet the experience, it's unconscious. Everything is consciousness, including emotions. So even like things like grief or let's pick one. Shame. Shame's a good one. Like shame, when we feel shame and then it's like, oh, I don't want to feel that anymore, push it down, we suppress it, and then it gets repressed, meaning we don't know it's there anymore. It's buried so deep we don't know it's there. So that's a dense energy, it's a vibration, and our organs are also vibration. So say this shame is held in our heart, right? Now our heart in natural state is a very high vibration. And then we have shame, which is a very low, dense vibration. We've said no to it, we didn't meet it, so it's unconscious energy, and say it's stuck in the heart. Then what happens is this. That energy affects the energy of the heart. Or you trap anger and it goes to the liver, for example. So you've got a healthy liver, it's vibrating at a very high rate, and you trap anger there. So that anger, that low vibration, is drawing down the energy of the healthy liver, and over time what's going to happen is that you might get a pain, or you might start getting aggravated very easily, or you might get chronic fatigue, or you might eventually get liver disease, right? It'll perpetuate. The universe will do this. If you had trapped shame, say you did something, let's see, what's a good example? Anyway, let's just say you trapped shame, can't think of an example, but if you trap shame,
Lying.
huh?
Lying.
Yeah. So say you lied to your mother. You lied to your mother. You're 7 years old. Your mother says, "Did you do that thing?" "No, Mom, I didn't do that." "Yes, I did." Right? So you lie to your mother, and you like feel really bad because then she goes and she blames the neighbor. She's like, "You bloody kid," and she grabs that kid by the neck, and you're like, "Oh my God, I caused all this stuff," and you got shame. And you're like feeling really bad about it, but you're afraid to tell, so you hold on to it. Like, I don't. The next day you're still feeling the shame, and then you're like, "I don't want to feel this." Whooshka. You push it down, and then it's stuck in the body somewhere, right? Then what happens is this: the universe is a very loving, whatever it is. The universe will lovingly say, "Oh, Stephen's holding on to shame. Now, how do I let Stephen know that he's got this shame? How do I communicate to Steve that he has to meet that shame? Because all we need to do is meet it and it just goes, right? So the universe will do this. The universe will go, "Steve's got shame. The only way I know how to communicate to Stephen is through an experience." This is the universe, right? So the universe goes, "Here's another experience of shame for Steve." And then all of a sudden, it's like triggering that old other shame, and I'm feeling the shame again. And then it's like, "I don't want this, whooshka." Then the universe, maybe a week later, a month, a year, whatever, another experience of shame, and it gets a bit louder. And it keeps getting louder and louder and louder. The universe is just giving us an opportunity to meet the shame that we first felt. Because the universe wants balance, and so that's what it's doing. It's giving you yet another experience as an opportunity for you to meet that trapped emotion. Okay? So if we get triggered at all, if we ever get triggered, it's because there's something we haven't met. It's us. The other person or that situation is just a situation to show you what you have not met. May that be your partner, the perfect mirror. May that be pulling into the grocery store, you're waiting for a car spot, you've been waiting for 2 minutes, somebody pulls out, you're about to pull in there and somebody takes your spot. If you get angry, it's because you have anger in you already that you haven't met. Right? If you didn't have anger in you, you wouldn't get angry. You just go, "Oh, what a dickhead." Right? "I'll just park somewhere else." Right? Whatever. So that's a little background. So the issue is not with the emotion. The issue is that the emotion is trapped. It's energy that's trapped in the system, and it's unconscious energy. So there's many ways to meet that stuff, like counseling and therapy, and through like what David was sharing. It's a completely different doorway, which I never thought of. Right? But the emotion code is a very direct way, where we just ask the subconscious mind, and it'll tell us what it is. But what I'm here to talk about today is what I'm seeing on the ground, day in and day out. So I've got people coming in, and as I said, they've got whatever going on, and they're frustrated. And they're blaming themselves. "I'm so bad, and why do I still have this? You know, what's wrong with me?" They're blaming themselves. They have no compassion for themselves. After 10 years of trying to resolve this issue, why did I pick the same type of woman again? Or why, blah, blah, blah. So what happens is this, typically, is that they're doing a lot of different work on themselves, and they're working on things that happened in this lifetime. But that's only a third of the equation. The other two parts of this is this. One, we can trap emotions through experiences that we don't meet fully. Alright? You walk into that party, your girlfriend is making out with your best mate, right? We trap a few emotions. Right? And, but the other ways that we can trap emotions is through empathically, we can absorb them from other people. This is a big part of what happens to people when they're kids or otherwise. they can absorb trapped emotions in people, and they don't even know they're doing it. Right? Example. So say you're a 5-year-old boy, and you hear a bit of noise. You're outside, and you come into the kitchen. Your father just went out the back door. Your mother's standing there crying. She's shaking. There's tears coming down. You're like, "What's wrong, Mom?" Give her a big hug, and you absorb her sadness or whatever's going on with her, right? And you don't. And then suddenly, when you absorb her sadness, you'll feel the sadness, and then you might go, "Oh, what's this? I don't want this." We hope that. But probably the most important category is the last one. Or should I say it's the first one? I consider this the most important one. And this is ancestral trapped emotions. All right? So when we are conceived, at that point of conception, if there's an ancestral, like a life-defining trapped emotion in your parent or in their ancestors, you will often be born with that trapped emotion. Okay? So just to give you an example of how this happens. So say you had a grandfather, and he's in the war, right? And he's in the bunker, he's in the battlefield, he's in the bunker, he's got 5 of his soldiers with him. The bombs are coming in, the bunker's collapsing. And he starts going into terror, because he's like, "I'm going to die," and he starts to go into terror, he starts hyperventilating, and then he goes, if I go into terror now, I'm dead. So he goes, "I'm not going to feel this terror. Come on, boys, let's get out of here." And then they get out. Then he comes home. He survives the war. He's with his wife. They make love. And then his wife conceives. And then your father's born. Right? Now that father, because that grandfather, he had terror going on still. He never met that terror. He had terror. It was a life-defining kind of thing that happened to him. And so this infant, this pure spirit being born into this world, will be born, will at the point of conception, will inherit the terror. And the reason is this, the reason why is this. Well, this is what the science is showing. The reason is this. Because that pure spirit's being born into an environment where there's terror. Right? So this pure being can survive that situation where that father might be volatile, he might be angry, he might be violent. So this infant can survive in that situation. So what happens is the life-defining things that happen in our ancestors, the family tree, both sides, when it's a life-defining event that happens, and they haven't met that stuff, and they typically didn't meet that stuff back then, all right? Stiff upper lip, right? And then it gets, and don't talk about it, I often hear this, "Oh, my family says, we're not supposed to talk about it, we don't talk about it," right? So it gets passed down until there's a sensitive one in the family chain who's been chosen to heal everybody. Right? So what's often happening with people is this. They're coming in the door, this stuff's going on, they've done 10, 20 years of trying to deal with something, it's still there, they haven't uncovered it. They go, "I've dealt with all my stuff, I've dealt with all this stuff around shame," and then it still appears. And then we do a session, and then what comes up, they've inherited, for example, they've inherited shame from their great-grandmother. Right? And so the emotion code can identify what it is. We can trace it back through the ancestry, who trapped it, when they trapped it. We can even figure out what it's about if we want to, but it takes a bit of time. And then, so what tends to happen is this, that there might be, a core life thing playing out in your life, and it's still there, and you can't get rid of it, or whatever, or a pattern that's playing. And what I'm seeing time and time again is that people come in, they've done all the work, and then we just release the ancestral stuff, and maybe a few absorbed stuff, trapped emotions, and then they walk out, and then they write to me 3 days later, and they go, "I can't believe it, it's gone. I'm done. It's done." So it's like it's the missing piece, right? Because a lot of the modalities are focusing on what happened in this lifetime, right? So often the ancestral trapped emotions, and the reason is this. All right. So say this is one weed, okay? It's not a bunch of flowers, it's one weed. So when you have an ancestral trapped emotion, you were born with the root of this weed without any flowers on it, right? And that might be shame, or that might be abandonment, or that might be heartache. So that's the root, and you're born with that, right? So the universe will go, Steve's been born with a trapped emotion of abandonment, which I was, by the way. Right? And so the universe will, very early on in my life, give me abandonment, which it did. Right? And so what happens is, it's the root, that's the root cause of the emotion that's trapped. And then at age 2, you know, I get abandoned emotionally by my mother, for example. And so then the first flower of that weed appears. And then at age 4, I get abandoned again in a big way. And then then this thing appears. And then at age 8, that appears. Then I start, you know, I'm in high school and I have my first girlfriend. She abandons me. There's another one. And then at age 19, happens again. And then I get married and my wife cheats on me. There's another one. Right? And so we eventually get a bouquet of the trapped emotion. But the issue, the root is the real important one. And then we do all these things in this lifetime, all these modalities, and we pluck that one off, and we pluck that one off, and we pluck that one off. And then we go, I've dealt with my shame, I'm good, I'm all done. Then the universe goes, shame, another experience of shame. And it's because the root hadn't been pulled out yet, right? Which is the inherited trapped emotion. So what I'm finding out there is this. Is that when the inherited stuff is so important, it's typically the hidden ingredient in somebody's final healing. For the people coming through, it's often the hidden thing. And when it's released, it's done. It's like the root's pulled out. When you pull the root out, the weed doesn't grow. All right, it's done. So that's really what I want to talk about today. The 3 categories. So you've got your own experiences that you can't meet fully, so that energy that's traveling through the body gets stuck, and then it will play out. You'll be triggered by it, right? Or you absorb it. You absorb it by being around somebody and you compassion for them, and you go, oh, sorry, mom. Or you're in the womb, your mother's pregnant, she's in the 3rd trimester, and then something happens and you try to panic or whatever. And then the 3rd major category, probably the most important, is the inherited trapped emotions that get stuck in the system. Well, you're born with it, and because you're born with it, it's like normal, right? You're like, how come I felt like I felt sad all my life? I felt sad from day 1, right? It's because you were born with it. So the universe has primed you to experience that for whatever reason, and often it's because when you uncover this and you release it, you heal. If you release an inherited trapped emotion, you not only release it for yourself, but you release it for everyone in the ancestral chain, including your kids and their kids. So the ancestral stuff can be really, really, well, that's what I'm finding. It's super, super important. The last thing I'll say is this. When people discover the roadmap of what's been trapped in them, what's trapped in them in relation to whatever's playing out in their life, right? So they might come in and go, I've got this issue, haven't been able to deal with it, blah, blah, blah. And then we uncover 4 inherited trapped emotions, 2 absorbed trapped emotions, and 3 that they experience in this lifetime. Or it might even be more weighted to more inherited and absorbed. Often it's that case where there's 10 trapped emotions and 8 of them are not their energy. It's not theirs. They inherited it when they were conceived. It's ancestral energy playing out, and it's an energy they absorbed. It's nothing that they've done. And when people see this, the whole perspective goes whoosh. They're like, oh my God, I didn't do anything wrong, actually. It's like, instead of having the whip going, I'm so bad, why do I feel this way? You know, I should be better than this, I'm no good. Right? It's like, oh my God, it's just ancestral energy playing out. And they're just freed, and it's like, something happens, and really massive transformations happen very quickly. You know, so that's really what I wanted to say, is mainly about the ancestral stuff, the importance of it.
Wow. And Steve, let me say, and by the way, can we treat this as an open forum now? David, do you want to go back out the front, or do you want to stay there? No, Steve, I was going to suggest you stay.
Yeah, I'll stay.
Steve, there's been I should have posted it on the internet, there's been a summit on over the last week,
Yeah.
and A Cry from the Future. I can't remember the full title. And each day they recited a poem about our children in the future who'll ask you, what did you do? Did you know? There was that conversation. But do you know what the overall big conversation that I picked up on was? The ancestral thing. But they weren't talking about it just one generation. One of them was talking about it as being 7 in the past, 7 in the future, as I recall. And then there was another one of them who was just talking about 7 generations. A fascinating conversation. So I'm so glad that I've got to hear your take on it.
Yeah. Really important, really important. And often the ones in the families that are suffering the most is because they're the most sensitive people in the family, because they're the ones that will finally meet this stuff. Right? They can be on the edge. It's like, I've had enough. I don't even want to be here anymore. Right? Because they're feeling everything. And so the universe gets really in their face, and then they finally meet the stuff and they heal the whole family. That's what's happening. It's like they're chosen. It's part of their purpose. You know?
I don't mind saying that I've had a second session with Steve and I found it very helpful. You know, I'm very cynical of a medical and scientific community that many years ago decided that if you had a sickness, we'll give you a tablet. Don't get me onto that today.
No, we won't go there.
I think we all know that by now.
Yeah.
You worked it out?
Yeah.
There's a tablet for that.
Right on.
That really resonated with me.
Oh, cool.
That sensitive person in the family, like healing, I've seen. That's why I went through what I went through to do that. So that's a resolution for me in that. So it's so true.
Time and time again, the people coming in the door, they're the sensitive ones. Because I asked them, I said, do you have brothers and sisters? Yes. What are they like? Oh, they're just like shut down. Like they've never met any of that stuff. I said, are you the sensitive one in the family? Yes.
Is this a question time now?
Yeah.
It is. We're an open forum.
Okay.
Want to come up here, Dave?
David, can you just sit out there?
I have a question. I have a question, Steve.
Yeah.
What exactly is the process? What exactly do you do in a practical sense?
Well, I'm not doing it, but their subconscious mind is doing it. Okay, but at a practical sense, as a facilitator, well, as a facilitator, I'm basically holding space. But the process is like this: somebody will come in, and I'll have a table here, 2 seats, and I'll tell them about the emotion code and what it is, if they don't know what it is, and explain about emotions and what they are and how they get trapped and what the issue is with that. So it might be a half hour of that if it's the first time. Then we go into it, then I'll ask them, I'll say, look, what do you want to investigate? And we can investigate anything, because your subconscious mind knows everything about you. It knows what happened, when it happened, how it needs to be healed, what order it needs to be healed in. And so it will release things in a certain way. It'll tell us what is there in a certain way, right? But and then I'll say, so what's happening? And so they'll just stop talking, and I capture it. I'm very quick on my computer. And so I just capture what they're saying, and then something will just stand out to me. Or they come in with a particular issue, and they already know what they want to investigate, and like I've got, you know, the issue with my neck, or I've got anxiety, I don't know what's wrong, or this, you know, I'm stuck, and whenever I try to do this, I can't go forward. It's happened 10 times, or whatever's going on. So they just explain it, and then I'm just writing stuff, and it's like this. Your subconscious mind is like a supercomputer for you, and I write a little Google statement to do a search, right? And my statement will have two components. It will have a major component, which is like a broad statement, and then it'll have a minor component, which
What's
is
an
more.
example?
All right, so let's use issue with the left side of the neck. So that's a fairly straightforward. So it would just be Susan, okay? The major statement is this: there's a trapped emotion in Susan causing or contributing to issues with the left side of her neck. That alone would do the whole thing. That would be enough. The subconscious would be, yep, I know what that is. But then what I do is I tend to throw in a couple of examples of symptoms, whereby Susan started feeling pain in her neck about 5 years ago. Whenever she does yoga, right, or whatever, whenever she does yoga in a certain pose, or whatever, like whatever's been playing out. Okay, so I just throw that in there because the subconscious will then just go, you know exactly what this is, right? And then what happens is I just create a space and I say a few things where I kind of speak to the universe, you could say. I invite the person, I say why we're here, what's our intention for this session. I invoke the divine to run the session. I invite their ancestors to be here if they're here to support us. And I ask the divine to fill me with his presence so that all the interpretations of that day is the divine's presence, not me, right? Then, with their permission, then I connect to their subconscious mind, right? And that's part of what they teach in the emotion code, how to do that, but it's quite simple. And then once I connect to the subconscious, they could be here, or they could be in Peru, right? Doesn't matter, because there's no separation. So once I connect to the subconscious mind, say the name, it's Susan, I will just check that I'm connected. My name is Susan, and if my hand says solid, this is kinesiology. I'm actually using kinesiology on their subconscious mind to get the answer. My name is Susan, yes or no? Right? Yes. Once I'm connected, then I ask the statement that I've already written down. So trapped emotion in Susan, causing or contributing to issues with the left side of her neck, whereby blah, 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 blah. Yes or no? Yes, there is something. Then I'll find out how many things are there. The number of trapped emotions in Susan, causing or contributing to issues with the left side of her neck is between 1 and 5, 5 and 10. Is it 5, 6, 7, 8 trapped emotions? Then once we know how many, then I will ask that statement 8 times. Is it trapped emotion in Susan causing contributing to issues with the left side of the neck? Yes. Is this inherited? Is it absorbed? Is it something she experienced? Alright? So for whatever reason with me, it'll always show all the inherited ones first, then all the absorbed ones. So if there's 3 inherited, I'll get those 3 first for whatever reason. Then I get the absorbed, then I get their own. Right? And then once we identify it, right, because it's her subconscious mind doing it, then there's 3 things you do with each trapped emotion. You identify it, decode it. Decoding is like, when was it trapped? Right? Or where did it come from? It's inherited, okay, how many generations back? Let's chase it back, okay, it's your great grandmother on your mother's side. And it was trapped in her at age 13, right? Terror. Right? And then I might see something or whatever. Then we release it. So the way it is released is that we're both at the subconscious level. We're not going through a gatekeeper of the conscious mind, which is the thing that will block. Right? And then I will ask her subconscious, do we need to know anything more about this trapped emotion? If I get a no, that means the subconscious has it ready. And then we just release it by holding the intention to release it. And I kind of guide them through it, but you just hold the intention. Our intentions flow on our meridian, and then there's a magnet involved where we just swipe on the meridian, and they will say releasing abandonment, releasing abandonment. All right, I'll test how many times I need to do that, And the magnet just floods their body with their intention. It doesn't actually do it. Intention does it. The magnet floods the body.
So the magnet is in us already.
No, you just hold it in your hand.
Oh, okay.
So you just swipe on the meridian,
Yeah.
and you'll swipe so many times. Usually it's 10 swipes for inherited, 5 swipes, 3 swipes are absorbed or your own. Then after that's done, I'll test if it's been released. And then if it's released, often like during the release I might feel something or see something, and I just note that in the notes. And we just do that 8 times for those 8 trapped emotions, and then I'll test if it's all done. And it's done. It's very, very simple. It's very direct. That's what I love about it. And the subconscious just tells us what it is.
Right, yes.
And then we just release it, and then things happen.
What's the purpose of using a computer?
I just take notes for them
Oh, okay.
so that I can tell them. I send them a document afterwards.
Yeah.
Of what we checked, and then what we found, what was released, what it was about. Because it might be something you experienced. There's a trapped emotion of grief, right? Something related to grief, and then I'll say, okay, this is something you experienced, yes. This trapped emotion of grief was trapped in Susan before the age of 20, yes. Age 12. You trapped grief at age 12, and then she might go, oh, because we're both in a subconscious space at this point. And often it's being showed to me or her. We don't need to know, the story doesn't matter, right? But it's just interesting to know, and she might just go, oh, I think I know. Can you just check, is that about my dog? Bingo. This is trapped emotion of grief around bingo, yes or no, yes. She goes, yeah, because I was walking my dog and it got loose and I ran over my car at age 12. So she trapped grief. And so we just release that. So, and it's amazing how, I mean, the subconscious mind is 100% right. You know, it'll just pinpoint. It's like, people just go, oh my God, I forgot about that. Because we will suppress things and then we repress it. So the mind is very clever for our survival, and that when we have something that's too full on and we don't want to deal with it, we say, I don't want that, Wishka. Right? We know it's still there, but then eventually it will be repressed, which means we don't even know it's there anymore. Like at age 3, it's like, I have no idea what was there. You know, and that's what
But
happens.
that's a good thing too, so we have a whole life to
Yeah.
do something.
Yeah,
Because it comes out when
there's nothing right or wrong about any of
when we
this.
trust and we pray, we know when it's coming out.
What's your survival process?
No,
It's
I
about-
think you look up
yeah.
for help, like you go to Steve and you see a healer, and then you want to do this now, in the now, and in 10 years you want to do another thing.
And often it is
But
like
it's
that.
so many
It's
layers
divine
in
timing, right?
shifting. It's the right person.
It's divine timing.
Yeah,
Yeah, because
and then you find help, and then you can.
What Steve's doing is showing us how to use the switch he's using a switch to switch that survival
Or you
process
both
up.
or the universe, but you find your healer and your path.
so there's nothing, right or wrong about us not needing our experiences. We're human, right? We're a spirit in a body, so sometimes if we were all Buddhas, we'd meet every experience, right? With all joy comes, pain comes, it's all welcome.
And it goes on till we're dying. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a process never ending.
Exactly. But when you release the inherited stuff, then you can have radical changes in your life.
So, yeah.
Your interactions with family members change as well. You notice that without even need to say anything, relationships shift. Totally can see things shifting in minutes, mate.
Because, as I said, you will only be triggered if you have something really met inside of you. So when you deal with your stuff, which is family, that family's trigger, families are a divine setup. Right? You can't get away from them. So
and you choose them. I mean,
yeah, you choose them. But like if it was a boyfriend or a girlfriend, you just go, I'm out of here, right? To avoid it, right? But a family, you're gonna go back at Christmas and there it is, in your face. So when you get triggered there and then you deal with that, right, any way that you do, you don't have to use emotion code, but it's one method.
Yeah.
But when you deal with that, then you go back and like you said, then it's like, oh.
fascinating.
You know, my sister said the same thing, and she says every Christmas, and I just didn't feel anything. Right? It's like, oh, fuck it in.
Or like the thing that you've healed in yourself, you see it healed in them too. So they're not even going to say that anymore.
That's right.
It's not
That's
even
right.
in their
That's right. That's right.
thing to do. And it's just shows you the interconnectedness of it.
Absolutely. Because another word for trapped emotions is the pain body. And we view the world through the pain body, as you were talking about. That you will project out, alright? You're basically just viewing the world through the pain body. So after my marriage ended, after so many years, and it was like confronting, and like, I'm like, what? And it was like full on, right, for me. And then I didn't date for like, 4 or 5 years, because I was like, no, I'm not going there. And then when I finally did, right, then I'm at a date, and then the girl picks up her phone, and she starts texting, and then I'm like, oh, right? Because something happened, right, that I trapped around my marriage, around texting, right, as an example. Right, so we just project that onto that person. Oh my God, it's happening again. Okay, now she's not the one, right? Because we don't want to go there. Unconsciously, we don't want to feel that, right? But the universe brought me that person, and she picked up that phone so I could see what I haven't met yet. There's something, the universe was telling me, there's something, here's an opportunity for me to heal. Right? And it's something around this stuff. Anyway.
Very interesting.
Yeah. And this man right in front of me, his name is Guy. He's just been certified as an emotional code practitioner too. And he lives not far from here.
Yes, that's I was just thinking while you were talking, Stephen, I've been doing a lot on myself, so you can do it on yourself, and that's been really, really interesting and really, release and relieving, and I can feel things changing all the time. I seem to be, probably every second day I'm doing a session on myself, and I seem to be in the puberty era at the moment, and that's a fun period of time, wasn't it? So there's stuff that's coming out there that's recently been triggering me, and it's like, what the hell? But then that's what Stephen's talking about. It's the stem's there, and it's just got to you've got to work that through. So yeah, it's very effective, and it is relatively simple. Yeah.
And you can also do it on animals. So it's the same process. You just connect to the animal's subconscious mind. They could be here or, in North Queensland, and you can do the session.
And you ask the dog, do you have a pain in the neck? And it goes,
No, you just ask the subconscious mind. It will definitely give you an answer. It's exactly the same. And in fact, it's so simple to do sessions on animals. And it's very, very effective. And kids, I work with a lot with kids, working more and more with kids. And what I tend to do with kids is I do it while they're asleep at home, and I do it from here. Because the subconscious does not sleep. And it's incredible results that come. Yeah, so it's good. So you can get the book called The Emotion Code by Dr. Bradley Nelson, and you can read it, and it will guide you through it, how to do it, and you can learn it.
Do you self-teach yourself, or is that a course?
The book will guide you through it, but then you can become a certified practitioner
Right,
through
that's
the US. Yeah. It's really well done. And, it's really, it's simple and powerful, and it's good. So I like to say the words uncovering the cause. It's like, why is this happening? We're uncovering the cause because although I would say 80 to 85% of whatever's going on with you is trapped emotions, including diseases, because it just escalates to that. The universe is getting louder when you have a disease. It's like, okay, are you gonna look now, right? That's what happened with me. I had cancer and I was a dead man, and then I didn't know the emotion code then, but I was a very unconscious guy. And because I was dead, because I was never gonna go look. I was never gonna touch this stuff again. Because at age 8, I said I'm never ever gonna feel any of this stuff ever again. And then at age 30, then I met, of course, the universe gave me the perfect wife to play out the same thing. And then I was dead at age 38. So, well, I have nothing to lose now. I'm dead anyway, so why not?
So what about trapped trauma?
Same.
But yeah, obviously from injuries.
Trauma is like a cluster.
Yeah,
It can be like a cluster of emotions.
yeah.
Right. And as well, there can be trauma stuck in the physical body, which we can identify and release too. Right? That's not an emotion. It's actually trauma stuck in the physical, in the body itself.
In the cells. Yeah.
And we can identify that and release that too. That's called the body code. So the emotion code, like I said, covers what I consider 80% to 85% of what's going on with everybody, and the additional 15 to 20% you can do through the body code, which is another learning, right? It's more medical oriented, and yeah. Anyway.
Does it work with energetic trapped emotions as well?
Yeah, well,
trapped in the auric field, or
No.
just physical?
Yeah. Oh, I'm not sure. The body code, I think, does. I think the body code might deal with that. But the emotion code is basically trapped stuff with the body. Emotions are trapped in the body. Do our emotions get trapped in the auric field?
That's an interesting question, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think if we're interconnected to everything, then there's certain things we're going to perhaps be resonantly vibrating with because maybe of trauma in the body, and maybe that represents energetically as well, because the boundaries are so hard to delineate. I don't know. What's the answer to that?
I would say more that they're expressed in the field.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Fantastic.
Anything else?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, we're still on.
No?
Stay there, Steve.
No.
What time is it?
4:38.
It says my clock died on me.
Time is 4:38.
All right. We normally finish these days with a sharing circle. I'm going to take the view that we've had our sharing circle.
Yeah, good.
Yes?
Yeah.
And we usually have some music. We can't have a full music gig this afternoon. However, if you wish, having listened to both of you, there was one song that Sunbear sang last time. Do you know the one? And it's Om Mani Padme Hum. You were here, guys?
Yes.
Do you remember him singing the song I Know What You Know?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
And did you fall asleep?
Yeah, I've travelled a bit, yeah.
I'm going to suggest that we do a 5-minute version
Yeah.
of I Know What You Know.
So
What I
those
know.
words mean what?
I'm not going to tell you what those words mean.
No.
But he- Oh, Om Mani Padme Hum, I'll tell you what those words mean.
Okay.
It's a Buddhist version. Normally, I've got to say to you, David, that this tribe has a strong connection with the triple goddesses. The core one being Saraswati. You and I are going to sing Saraswati this afternoon. I'll tell them what the words to that are, and you can listen to it next time. But Om Mani Padme Hum is a Buddhist mantra chant, and of course the other person who's relevant to guiding the tribe is of course Tara. But we can't sing Om Tara this afternoon. Tea awaits us. So are you going to play the oud
I can play.
or the drums?
I'll play the oud, I think.
Okay.
That's more.
Did you like the oud before?
Yes.
Well, at least you'd say you've listened to someone who played the oud. Okay. Well, you can stay there if you like. And Steve and I often have this conversation about, gosh, we're pushing the boundaries, being a meditation group, and we're doing this, and I mean doing emotions this afternoon. We didn't get a crowd here. There was a big gig on in Mullumbimby today, and all the rock stars were playing at it, etc. So we take the view that those who need to turn up, turn up. I'm just sorry that our two lady friends here didn't get to hear your talk, Steve. But this is all live streamed. Okay. And Sunbed was so excited when I said that we wanted to take his song on. So just to answer your question, Steve, if I can find it. Om Mani Padme Hum. Chanting the mantra opens the heart chakra. And Om Mani Padme Hum means praise to the jewel in the lotus. There's a story that I haven't got time to tell you. It's an ancient Buddhist mantra. It cultivates mindfulness and allowing one to get on with the present moment and to let go of distractions. Kind of what we've been talking about today. On Saraswati, the song which we're not going to play today because we want to wrap up. Saraswati is the Hindu goddess of knowledge, music, arts, wisdom, and learning. She's part of the Holy Trinity of Saraswati, Lakshmi, and Parvati. Is celebrated as a feminine deity with healing, purifying powers and abundant waters, flowing waters in Book 10 of the Rig Veda. Song was written by Sri Shinnoy in reverence to the Hindu deity Saraswati. Words are in his native Bengal and mean, Mother Saraswati, I bow to thee. And the version that we do of that, by the way, is by a guy called Boris Grebenshchikov, who's a famous Russian activist and singer, who's kind of the Russian equivalent of Bob Dylan. Now, having said all that,
It's a bit happier than Bob Dylan.
no, we often sing Saraswati and acknowledge Boris Grebenshchikov because he has taken on Putin and had a few things to say about Putin. I'm not taking sides, by the way. I have a view about the Americans in this as well. But in any event, Boris has dared to speak out, and hello, they've issued a warrant for him. So I often sing his version of Saraswati to acknowledge the fact that this is a time when we need to hold our ground and right speech. And right speech often means saying nothing at all, but then at other times it means holding your ground and speaking out. A conversation for another day, Peter?
Yes, yes.
You might remember Sunbear played an island guitar. This is a steel guitar. I know what you know, but I know what you know. will hum. Or you can listen. I know what you know, what I know. Well, is that okay?
Really good.
All right, guys, that's the end. So in wrapping up, thanks again, Steve. You'll notice that when you turn up at this gig, it's always spotless. And mind you, he's had me on the whippersnipper yesterday.
Oh, he's a great whippersnapper.
Here we go. So thank you for coming. Next time we have Rahasha, and you, if you're into stories, this is the one you need to hear. It's about a Tisha, and depending on the time frame, I might even try to talk him into another Buddhist talk, which is on the Shambhala prophecy. You ain't heard nothing yet unless you've heard the Shambhala prophecy. No promises, but that's the indication. And then the month after that, there's a lady who's written a book on Earth Chakra meditations. Wow. So that's that part of it. I haven't checked who's paid on Eventbrite. If you can help us pay the rent, that'd be appreciated. There's a bowl out there. There's also a book out there. If you're not on the Earth Meditation Tribe list, please fill it out. And if you want me to share your details with Steve and him to put it on his Octagon list, put an asterisk beside your name and your...
There's a WhatsApp group for the Octagon, so you know when events are coming.
Do you understand what I'm saying? Okay, now other than that, thank you for coming today, David, and good luck with the book.
Yeah.
And radical stuff, it's wonderful, and I hope you found Steve's stuff was...
I'm very interested in it.
Thank you for coming today too, Steve.
Oh, I would miss it.
So Harry on, and the cup of tea's outside, and yes, Steve has made it, or one of the girls has
So
made it.
we're doing something different this time, right? Instead of all the stuff and cookies and bloody dips and this and that, we're just simplifying. We made a beautiful herbal tea with mint and different herbs.
So instead of giving you a dozen choices, Steve has said to me, Greg, you make a rod for your own back every time. I don't want you going to Coles or Aldi anymore, just
keep it
turn
simple.
up. Keep it simple.
Just
In other words, it'll help us get this gig happening if you help with things generally. Speak to Steve or I if there's a way that you can help us. The other thing that comes out of today, Steve, this is such a big topic, emotions.
Oh, totally.
We're very near to looking at events
a lot
which will
going
go
on.
over a full day or a full weekend. A separate conversation, but the Earth Meditation Tribe will evolve shortly. This event will continue if Steve is happy for us to be here.
Yeah, sure.
And it may be that there'll be another venue if Steve doesn't want to have weekend venues, but that's a separate conversation which will develop in the near future. Carry on.
Great. Thank you for thinking about the process of getting it all together like that, moving forward, making this into
Peter,
more than
some people don't
great
hear
as it
this.
is, yeah.
There were things I wanted to say this afternoon. I feel very strongly about my connection with the Earth. I'm happy with this biome that I have, this genome that I have, and some decisions are being made very shortly by people moving us in another direction. These are critical times. Please don't fall asleep at the wheel. There's a meeting happening in Geneva this week about the World Health Organization. It's all happening now. I know we're all tired and sick of it, but hang in there, because the tide will turn.
The age of
I
Aquarius.
agree, yeah.
So sorry to be on a...
But don't just hang in there, act on it also.
Thanks, Peter.
Right.
Okay. Let's have a cup of tea first before we pack up.